All right, it's that time again for the Covrprice Top 10 2 years later. All right, guys, we are going to get into this top 10 list from 2 years ago thanks to Covrprice.com. We do appreciate it. They give me the list. I give it to you. If you could, hit that subscription button, notification bell, hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and let's get right into this. Let's talk about Covrprice really quick. This list comes to us from our friends at Covrprice, focusing on their top 10 from 2 years ago. I'll take you through how each title's sales compare from 2 years ago's market value to today's current value. How did these comics do? What had a boost in price? What had a bust? And what better number to start out with than number 10? This is SpiderMan number 1, the Gabriele Dell'Otto 1 in 50 variant from 2019. While this was selling for ratio 2 years ago due to it being gorgeous 1 in 50 variant from Dell'Otto, it sold 34 copies, had a 7-day trend of 99%, and had a high raw sale of $50.90 in a CGC 9.8 2 years later. Even if it's a great cover, the market moves on. There are a lot of great Spider-Man Dell'Otto covers, and this is getting lost in the shuffle. Today, this sells for $27 raw, $45 in a 9.8. This is a bust. Guys, do your best. Don't fall for FOMO when it comes to these flavor of the week kind of books. Granted, it is a 1 in 50 ratio, but those ratio variants don't always seem to hold value. Just like I said, the market kind of moves on, and they moved on from this. So awesome cover, very affordable now. Go grab it if you want it, because it's going to stay at this price. I can't imagine it's going to go up again. Why would it? Let's move down to number 9. This is Young Avengers number 1. This is a hot one. 2 years ago, Young Avengers number 1 was just starting to get heightened attention. Raw copies were selling for a steady $50, and it had a new high sale of $295 for a CGC 9.8. 2 years later, this book is shaping up to be one of the most important books of MCU's Phase 4. Today, this is a $340 plus raw and currently selling for a fair market value of $1,100 for a 9.8. This is a huge boost. There has been rumors about this. We have seen the Young Avengers slowly being introduced through Disney Plus. We've seen Wiccan, we've seen Speed, multiple characters coming. We even have a kid Loki, and we know Hawkeye, Kate Bishop is around the corner. They're coming. I mean, it's hard to imagine we won't get a Young Avengers Disney Plus show. I don't know if it would be on the big screen. I have no idea. I would assume they would kind of keep that trend of Disney Plus, since that's where we've seen these characters. Let's move on to number 8. Yeah, number 8. This is Spider-Man number 1, the Chip Kid variant, again from 2019. This issue was a highly anticipated release as it featured a Spider-Man story written by J.J. Abrams and his son Henry. Upon release, collectors seemed to gravitate towards this straightforward Chip Kid die-cut variant. It sold 39 copies and had a high raw sale of $10 and a 9.8 sale of $80. A few weeks later, of course. 2 years later now, this dipped a little bit in price with $8 and 9/8 selling for about $60. It's not dead. There's no need to chase this book right now. It's kind of a bust. So, I say bust because if you spent top dollar on it, you kind of are a little in the red now. But if you bought this thing for cover price because you liked the book, you were reading the story, you were interested, then it's not a bust at all. You don't want to be that FOMO buyer. You don't want to be that guy buying at the peak. Wait, next time, next flavor of the week, you see a book skyrocketing just because? Wait, I'm sure it'll come back down to earth. Let's go down to number 7. This is Captain Marvel number 20, back from 2001 in this first cameo appearance of Big Mother. Donny Cates, the king of making random, obscure characters suddenly trend, reintroduced the character into his Venom series back around this time in 2019, had a 7-day trend of 313%, a high raw sale of $20, no 9/8 sales. 2 years later, this character was retconned to be from Symbiote Dragon from Clintar, and died shortly later in Scream, Curse of Carnage number 5. Due to this, the book now sells for $2 raw, and no graded books ever came to market. This is a bust. This had bust written all over it. It was a dollar book forever. We see it pop thanks to Donnie Cates' his storytelling, and now back down to $1 book. Again, flavor of the week. Don't fall for these without major keys. If they're not a major key, like Young Avengers 1, patience. Wait on it. It'll come back down. Let's go down to number 6. This is Doc Savage, number 1. 2 years ago, Doc Savage had been stuck in development hell at Sony Pictures with Dwayne Johnson starring for years now. 2 years ago, while there was really no news, however, during the same time, rumors about Idris Elba playing Bronze Tiger hit and caused this book to trend. It pushed 44 copies to sell and had a high raw sale of $18 and $635 in a CGC 9.8. 2 years later, buyers were super confused. Number 1, the Man of Bronze and Bronze Tiger are not the same. And 2, we clearly know that Idris played blood sport in the film. This misinformation caused many people to buy a book they did not need. However, 2 years later, it's not doing too bad. Raws now sell for $14. CGC 9.8 sell for a $480 price tag. This is a bust. Could have had potential, and it could still have potential. We don't know. Is Bronze Tiger coming? Doc Savage coming? I'm confused on this book. I'm going to say wait. You're going to hear me say that a lot today in this video. Wait. Don't worry about this book. I would sit. Too confusing. Too many rumors. Too many shenanigans. Let's move down to number 5. Moon Knight number 1 from 1980. This is a nice book here. Even 2 years ago, the market knew that when you can't afford his first appearance, we move on to the most affordable first ongoing series. Keep that in mind, ongoing series. It sold 56 copies, had a 7-day trend of 107%, and had a high sale of $350 in a CGC 9.8. 2 years later, this is still the case. Collectors continue to focus on this first, rather than his significantly more expensive key issues. It currently sells for $80 raw, $900 in the CGC 9.8. This was a big boost. Guys, this is the first ongoing, not his first solo story, first ongoing title. It's probably the third or fourth, maybe even fifth most expensive key. Sometimes you get priced out of a book. Look at the Hulk 181, and then look what happened to Giant Size X-Men, and now we're talking about X-Men number 94. You just move on to the next thing. We're seeing it right here with this book, and the book is still hot right now because, again, the next most affordable book. Moving down, let's go to number 4 on our list. This is Absolute Carnage. Number 3, Young Guns variant, back from 2019, 2 years ago. This Hulk symbiote design variant cover had some high demand, sold 95 copies, had a 7-day trend of 147%, and had a high raw sale of $20. This is a perfect example of waiting out the flavors of the week. Today it sells for $8 raw, $15 in a CGC 9.8, which barely covers the shipping to get this book graded. It is a bust. We talked about it. We talked about it 2 weeks ago with that list. Hold off on these flavor of the weeks, these hot books that hit the shelves. Be patient. Now, with that being said, hey, if it's on your pull list, you pay cover price, great. Who cares? If you're already pulling the book, you already have the story, you're already into it, you like the artist, you like the writer, you like the character, any of those things, then who cares? Big deal. If you want it, you go get it. Try not to be picking up at the peak. You want to be early. Whew, we're going through. That's a mouthful. I need a drink. How about we go down to number 2? No, let's go to number 3 first. We'll go to number 3, then we'll go to number 2. Here's number 3, Uncanny X-Men number 1 from 2013, Gold Balls. Do we need to say any more? The name is just amazing to say out loud. After appearing in House of X number 5, fans race to find his first appearance, which is in the highly printed Uncanny X-Men number 1. 2 years ago, it sold a massive 122 copies, had a 7-day trend of 179%, with raws selling for $10, had a high sale of $100 in a 9.8. 2 years later, no one cares about good old Gold Balls. It now sells for $5 raw, $27 in a 9.8, which is cheaper than if you sent it out yourself. This is a bust. Again, flavor of the week. This book is massively printed. I see it everywhere. I see it all over the place. Don't worry about Gold Balls, all right? The name might be all right. The character, Now, can we go to number 2? Now we'll go to number 2. Captain Marvel, number 21, back from 2001. Now, this issue is the first full appearance of Big Mother. As noted, 2 years ago, Donny Cates got collectors racing to grab one of these in order to land both key issues. The market bought 46 copies, gave this a huge 7-day trend of 808%, with a high raw sale of $35. We didn't have any graded books. 2 years later, with Big Mother dead, this book sells for $4. No 9/8 ever came to market. Another bust. Are you seeing a trend with this list, these flavor of the weeks? You know, Young Avengers number 1 and Moon Knight number 1, those have big jumps, right? Everything else has seemed to be a bust. Catching on? These flavors of the week, these hot books. Again, if you got them on your pull list or you have them in your boxes, you know, that would have been the time to sell. Back when these things were getting all that love. That's when you go into your back issues and you're like, all right, do I really need this? Or can I flip it for $20? And now you just got, 4 new books off the rack with that one sale. You got to think about stuff like that, unless you don't care. And then you just keep collecting and you buy it off the rack. Try not to buy at the peak. Last on our list, number 1. Again, thank you to Covrprice for this one. Here we go. Number 1. Spider-Girl number 59, back from 2003. This issue features the first appearance of Benjamin Benji Parker, who reappeared in J.J. Abrams and his son Henry Abrams' Spider-Man number 1, this time 2 years ago. This connection sold 42 copies, had a 7-day trend of 1,160%, had a high raw sale of $100. 2 years later, the market is no longer paying attention to this issue. It currently sells for $15 with no CGC copies ever coming to market. This is a bust. Be careful with these mini-series, guys. I'm pretty sure that Spider-Man run was a mini-series. Nothing really seems to ever pop off of these things. What I do like about this list, even though this was a bust, and I'm going to cover this whole list, a lot of these flavors of the week were pushed and trended because of stories not MCU driven, if that makes any sense. And I thought that's kind of cool, but it almost seems like the books that are holding value are those big major keys, and not even major. I wouldn't even call Moon Knight number 1 a major key. I call it an important book and a minor key, maybe a key, but not a major key. So we are all learning lessons here. So let's talk about it. Let's close this off here. All right, there you go, guys. Out of the top 10 books from this time 2 years ago, the list walked away with 8 busts. However, those books were all flavors of the week. We've talked about it. I like that terminology now. Each of these lists highlight that outside of your traditional keys, your grails, the books that had huge jumps in price were content driven. With that said, here's the rundown. 2 years ago, these books would have cost you a reasonable $313 raw, $1,595 and a 9.8. Granted, there's a few that didn't have 9/8. Today, these books would now be worth $503 raw, $2,647 and 9/8. That would have netted you a plus $210 raw and a $1,052 plus graded. However, Young Avengers and Moon Knight did all the heavy lifting here. So hopefully you're one of the few who jumped in when they were really low. Either way, there's always today's books that could be your next year's regrets. Make sure you check out coverprice.com and see what's on their current top 10 and various trending movers and shakers list to make sure you're in the know. And come back next time for the next show. Let's see how these books did 1 year later. We're going back to 1 year later in 2 weeks, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep it comics.